Welcome to the Level Up Artist Podcast. We're your hosts, Adriana, and
Jackie Sanders. We are two art professionals sharing forth the advice and business lessons we have learned along our creative journeys.
We talk to artists, leaders, and art professionals to demystify the creative process and discover new ways to succeed as a career-minded artist.
If you find value in these conversations, please go ahead and subscribe. This will help other creatives like you find our podcast, and you will be notified when we drop a new episode.
So on today's episode, the topic that we have for you, building confidence as an artist, it's not something that happens overnight unless you happen to be the sort of person that's like extroverted and confident since you were little, and then the stars lined up the rest of your life. Anyways, the rest of us, that's not how it works. So it's the kind of thing, especially as an artist, not just confidence in yourself, but as an artist. It's one of those things that I would like to think most of us have had to intentionally work on, especially in those early days when you're still trying to develop an artistic voice, trying to avoid the comparison trap and the inner critic and all that stuff from stifling you too early on. And honestly, having a creative career is all about adapting, all about figuring out how to push through and keep going even when stuff gets tough and there's a lot of uncertainty. And these are the kind of elements that can a lot of times undermine that confidence as an artist, because you might be like, I just painted this masterpiece and then something else pops up, and then that masterpiece is now like, it went from a 10 to a 1.5. So that's something we definitely want to talk with you about today.
Yeah, and honestly, to your point, Adriana, I think sometimes as someone who feels like they're an extrovert person and also naturally a little bit more confident than the average, I think sometimes that can almost be harder when you're questioning your confidence as an artist because you almost don't have the coping skills or you haven't been put in that situation before. That other people may have learned earlier on. And when it comes to a physical product you make, and then you're asking for people to either look at it, praise it, purchase it. That's a very, very vulnerable position in any industry, but especially as an artist because so much of ourself goes into the work. So whether you're just starting out, whether you're a mid-career artist, we really feel like these are the moments that were pivotal for us. So there's no magic tricks in this episode, although that would be lovely if there was. Just little things that made a difference for us along our journey that might be helpful for you too. And it is honestly kind of wild to look back and realize how many of these small decisions or seemingly small decisions do add up to create that real, genuine confidence over time. So today we're going to go ahead and share 7 little things that help us grow our confidence as an artist. So to kick it off, Adriana, why don't you start with number 1?
So I feel like the first one is, and you've heard us talk about this, it's about showing up regularly, making consistently, regardless of, do I feel inspired? Do I feel like what's going on? It's to try to show up consistently. So we've both had stretches of time where nothing, like anything we created didn't necessarily feel good, especially after coming out of a period of burnout, which we have episodes on that too, of course. But I think the important bit here is like to keep showing up. And that's the part that mattered. When you let go of that perfection and focus instead on consistency, it's like something shifts inside of you. It's a little bit less about each thing has to be a masterpiece and more like, no, we have to produce to get to the good stuff, if you will. Even if we're not going to like all of it, which is fine. But I feel like that confidence grows not because each piece is amazing, but because we start trusting ourselves that we're going to keep going regardless, and something that I love about paint, and I tell other artists too, I'm like, best thing about paint is you don't like it, paint it over, and it's like having like you showing up whether it turns out or not. That's the part I think is like the most important. And this could be anything. This could be like sketchbooks. Some people do like a daily painting. Or it could be like a quick creative session. I mean, all of this counts as valid practice. I had a mentor that would always say every brush stroke counts, towards your next painting. But even if it's like 10 minutes a day, it doesn't matter. It's just like being able to tell your brain, like, at this time, or I don't know, maybe it's like Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning or whatever works for you. But like, I show up and I try to do something that will put me on the path towards the kind of art that I want to make. Even if you're not feeling inspired, and all these little things, they can help build momentum. So it's just showing up. It's essentially showing up.
Yeah, and I feel like we've both had moments where we look back on work that we've made from those moments of showing up, and they're kind of meh, or we realize maybe it wasn't our best work ever, or realizing, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was in the time. Or you see, oh, this wasn't clearly refined in the moment, but it later evolved into a concept or a body of work or a motif that we use frequently in our work when 2, 3, 4 years ago, it started off as just an offhand sketch where we didn't know why we were making it, but we just felt pulled to, and then it later became more refined. And I think that's really the key to this number one of just showing up regularly is that the refinement and that creative rhythm comes with time. It's not always like a natural evolution, but by showing up, it becomes a natural cadence and feels less and less forced the more you do it, right? Which I think also another part of that is number two would be getting comfortable with sharing your work publicly. Showing up on a regular basis for your creative practice is definitely like proving to yourself that this is important, this is a priority to you, and this is something that you get energized and find joy from. But putting it out into the world can be a whole different feeling. It can be very terrifying, especially at first. And I know we both had to push through those early moments. There was a time where we would only show work to each other or like a select group of people. Like, we're not going to post it online. We're not going to go to critique groups. We're not going to cast it from the rooftops of like, look at this amazing thing I made because we were still trying to find our voice. Because we had those thoughts of like, well, what if no one likes it? What if I post it and like people suddenly like hate me forever? All of these narratives that we tell ourselves. But we found that it really does get easier the more that you do it, and it gets more fun too. I think that's really where the community of fellow artists and finding your collector base can begin. Because especially having that early support from your small, tight community and having support from your friends who maybe aren't artists yourself themselves, but they can kind of hype you up, whether again it's showing in person or sharing online. You really stop obsessing over, okay, how many likes did this post get? Or is this a successful exhibition? You just enjoy the process of sharing, and whatever will be, right? Each single like holds less power than if you post one time in a month and you're like, oh, it only got this number of likes, versus if you post 5 times a week, you don't remember how many one single post got, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. And with time, it loses its power. And I think one of the other pieces to this that I wanted to make sure that we brought up was not just sharing your work publicly, but also talking about your creative process publicly. And this is more of an identity standpoint, right? I found really early on that words really matter, especially for me in terms of being able to call myself an artist took a long time. I think oftentimes too in our capitalist society, people often start their introduction as, "Oh, my name is Jackie Sanders and I work in digital marketing, blah 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 blah." Okay, but rather shifting that of yes, that may have been what I was doing for my day job at the time, but rather than leading with that, I would lead with, oh, and I'm an artist. I have a studio downtown. When even just that simple phrasing difference, because frankly, I didn't want to talk about my day job work. It's like the most boring part about me. I'd rather you ask a follow-up question about like my newest project or my newest painting, because like I could talk about that all day. So, leading your identity with the fact that you are an artist and then allowing that to be the start of the conversation, even though at the time, yes, 90% of my income came from my day job. I was barely even selling at that point when I started saying, no, I am an artist and this is what I do. But it really helped like kind of get over that hill for me. That honestly I think was a pivotal moment in the income shift changing too. Because that and the other part being having a website and having a newsletter that I sent out on a regular basis were all forms of me almost legitimizing to myself, like, no, I am a artist. I am a legit artist. This is a business for me. And then the income will follow down the road is very, very powerful. It's not only share it with other people, but also to prove it to yourself that no, this is part of my core identity. And it just
Yeah,
takes a while to get used to.
it does. It almost makes it official, like doing it in a spare bedroom and where nobody can see it is one thing, but then like actually putting where other people can see it, it just kind of changes it a little bit. And I mean, thing is too is like the fun thing and kind of like piggybacking on what you said about like what if people don't like it or whatever. It's like, yeah, but what if they do? And sometimes, like, a single message, like you'll do a post and then you'll get this beautiful message from one of your friends, or it could even be from a lovely stranger that can change your whole day and just tells you to keep going, especially if you're like being vulnerable. And this piece reminds me of this or that, or this memory, or this person, or whatever, and they see themselves reflected in it. And then they'll just like tell you like, yeah, keep going, like it's wonderful, like you just get this extra encouragement. um and again, like, and when we're saying publicly, like it doesn't have to be online, it could also be like a coworker at the office that like sees your sketch and they're like, oh my gosh, I can only do stick figures. If I had a dime every time I hear that phrase, but anyways, but they'll see like what you're doing, or they'll look over while you have your sketchbook or something, and they're just like, oh, this is amazing. And sometimes I'm like, if you had just done it completely in private and never shown it online or in person, like you would have never gotten that kind of feedback. Now, will you get some feedback you don't like? Yeah, probably. But I would say, like, I don't know. I think Jackie would agree with this. I think probably 95% of all the feedback we get is like amazing and awesome and positive and everything. And there's like 5% that, like, when you look at who's making the comment, it's usually a robot. It's not even a person. And like if there's like one person, they're not buying your stuff anyway. So bye. So so it's great. But I would say like part of this goes into, if you're sharing, consistently with other people. I mean, number one, you need eyeballs on your work. Like your work's not going to sell itself if nobody's ever seen a photo of it, as far as I'm aware. Um, but like it just also helps you to get into the rhythm of like, how do you talk about your art again, in person or online, and like trying to like polish what some of those results can be, or like what kind of language you're using. So at first it might be like, I like watercolors and it's my hobby, and this is this size by this size, and then you finish it there, versus like, hey, I'm an artist and I love doing watercolor landscapes, and this one's 16 by 20 and the cost is blah blah blah. And it's like it changes like how people perceive you, and they're like, oh, you do this professionally, like you don't just do this on the side and are afraid to say how much it is, like, you know what I mean? Like it just changes. So I'm with you, Jackie. It's all about, the wording that you're using for sure. But it does take some time to figure it out. So if you're starting out, give yourself some grace, watch some videos, listen to some of our podcasts. Hey. But it takes time. But yes, words matter. I think the next tip we have for you for this is about making a space just for the art. This means having a dedicated space, even if it's like a small desk, like off the side of the kitchen table. It can be like a closet. I've used a closet before, with a little cart that pulled out. It can be a full-fledged studio, of course. The more important thing here is like to have a space that is for your art, that tells your brain and sends you yourself back a powerful message that says your creativity matters. It's whether it's physical or digital. Obviously, this example is like physical, but digital is the same. It helps to have somewhere that feels like it's where your art lives, so that when you walk towards it, my therapist calls it ritualizing almost, or basically like integrating habits and routines in your brain. there's other terms for it too, but kind of like if you were to say, whenever I sit on this corner of the table where I always make my art, literally as you pass by, your brain's like, that's the art table, like that's the art corner. And like the moment you sit down, your brain's like, we're making stuff because it just becomes like your space, you know? Now we've both had a range of spaces, you know, spare rooms, living room floor, you know, and of course our current studios, and all of them are valid. I mean, even I don't know, even a little notebook that you stick in your purse that always lives in your purse that you like type out of, but that you live in your I don't know, in your purse, glove box, whatever, and it matters to have like that thing, that space. And um now people are going to be different on this one, at least for me. Having the tools visible make it easier to jump in without overthinking. For those of you that like to have stuff ultra organized, and maybe it's a case or a bag or a container, but something that's with those materials, so you're not like rummaging through three different drawers to find what you want, like, but actually have not just your space, have like a centralized location that like has most of the materials you're going to be using. And it doesn't matter how big or small, but just like somewhere that you can just like grab the stuff and get going, especially even, you know, if inspiration is like right there and the muse is in the house. You just want to
Yeah, and I
on
think
that.
that's a great point in terms of it doesn't necessarily matter which medium you use, and that will be different for everyone. But it's really about having almost that, yeah, that ritual experience of, okay, when I am in this space, whether it's a physical space, even if it's digital, if you say, okay, I do a lot of digital designs on my iPad, what do I want the default layout to be? What images do I want to have reference of? Put them all in an organized folder on your iPad so that when you go to like start your creative practice, you don't have outside notifications distracting you. You don't have like a pile of your like mail and bills sitting on the table where you're trying to make your painting, thinking about, oh, I need to pay this bill. Oh, I need to respond to this person's wedding invitation. Like, no, you have almost this barrier of influence and the organization to say, this is my time and my space to be creative and protecting that space. Because as us artists know, it can be very easy to just snap out of flow sometimes, or to get distracted, or to make one of the 10,000 excuses that we can make as to why this creative time isn't worth prioritizing. So having that physical space or digital space where you can see the materials, have it organized, and just enter in is super, super helpful. I love that tip. And I think another thing that I really think about when looking back on our creative journeys and kind of the evolution is saying yes before you fully felt ready. And I feel like this is something that is often talked about, but fully experiencing that is a whole different thing because from a concept standpoint, I'm like, yeah, like other people always say, like, you have to jump in with 2 feet before you're ready. But I would obviously be ready. Like, I'm not going to be one of those that's never ready. And it's really just removing myself. And then I found time and time again of no, that saying is actually true. Because it does, the confidence doesn't come before the experience. It doesn't come before you take that big leap. It often comes after because you've done the hard thing, right? You faced your fear, you faced the risk of negative comments or feeling uncomfortable, or maybe it's a new size of a painting that you've never painted before. And I know we've both had opportunities that have scared us along our creative journeys, whether it's a mural size that's bigger than we've done before, a solo exhibition that was our first time doing it. But through doing it, you just figure it out. And then that way, when you get your second solo exhibition, you can't make that excuse anymore. You can't say, well, I've never done it. That I've never had a show with that many pieces before. I've never had a solo show. I've never come up with an artist statement. You almost have to do it and just show up before you're ready, and then you'll have the confidence the next time. Um, because really trying to establish something as, oh, I'm fully ready and qualified and mentally excited to do this is such a moving target. And it often keeps you stuck and kind of repressed in your creative journey. So just doing it before you're ready. It's a cliche, but cliches are cliches for a reason oftentimes. And it's because they're true. So
Yeah.
this one is definitely true for that.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a difference between like I don't have experience in fill in the blank and I want to learn more about it and I have some concerns about the first time I'm doing it. And then after you did it the first time, you learn what you needed to for the next one and then the next one, right? Like it carries over. But I mean, it's just like painting. Like the first time you paint a hand, like it's probably not going to be great. Like you got to do it and then you go through it, you learn what you like, what you don't like, and then the next time you paint another hand, you're going to feel a little more confident. And then the next time it gets a little bit better. Like it has to go through that cycle. So I would say like um to help build confidence instead of hiding behind perfectionism or maybe just terror, because that's valid too. You're just like, no, I can't, I'm not ready. It's just to say like, okay, I will do some level of preparation before, let's say I put on a show or I show this to somebody else or, whatever stage you're in or what you're comfortable with, but still do it earlier than you think like you need to do it. Or at least run it by, if you have other creatives or artists in your lives, at least run it by other folks if you need like that little bit of reassurance before you do whatever it is you're going to do. Um, just don't wait because the perfect waiting, like the perfect time may never come, like that's not worth it. And it's like you'll accelerate your growth if you do it now, which we'll talk more about that in a sec, but like you'll get through that experience faster if you just do it, learn about it, move on, and then iterate and then iterate, like it just kind of goes on a cycle. So um even now I mean I feel like we grow the most by just doing the scary thing first at times, like if the opportunity's awesome, it seems in alignment, it might be a little bit scary, whether it's like that mural is a little bit bigger than I've tackled, or that painting commission is a little more complicated than I've tackled, or that theme that I want to paint, or that medium. It's like if you can, just do it now. Do some level of preparedness so that you feel confident even trying it, but don't not do it in anticipation of failing without even trying, if that makes sense. So do it before you're ready. Do it before you're ready. But anyways, next up, we're going to continue sharing some confidence building tips. But first, let's put in a quick word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by our Level Up Artist resources.
We understand that life as a modern artist can be both exciting and overwhelming. Plus, there's a lot of information out there, but what do visual artists actually need?
We've spent countless hours of trial and error, weeding through tons of information to find the gold so that you don't have to waste time going down those endless rabbit holes.
We created a library of PDF resources with bonus videos that cover everything from artist documents to exhibition prep, social media to technology, sales strategies, and artist mindset, several templates, and more.
Ready to get started? Head on over to levelupartists.com/shop to level up your creative career today.
Welcome back, everybody. So another tip that we have for you is to learn from artist peers and, be honest about your struggles. No one gets through an art career alone. Even if you just work by yourself in a basement somewhere, at the end of the day, like if you're going to make even any kind of income out of this, you're still going to have to leave, at some point, and or even if you don't leave, right? But you're still going to have to depend on other people that are going to promote your work, sell your work. Then there's the person that's going to enjoy your work. Like there's more humans involved than just, the one person making. Not to count all the people that came before that you're learning from. But anyways, I would say like finding a few friends could make a huge difference, right? And it definitely did with us. So when you see others navigating some of the same fears and doubts, like it automatically helps you feel a little bit less alone or less isolated. And it can even pump up your inspiration when you're like especially if they come up with an idea that you're like, why have I been banging my head against the wall about why this medium doesn't work? I've been using the gel and I should have been using, the liquid gloss one instead, or whatever the case may be, right? Or I'm using this clay and this other clay would have been better for my application. And in talking it out with somebody else, they're just like, oh yeah, do you want to try this one? I think it would work perfect. And you didn't even know it existed. So I would say something that's like fair to say to others is like, like I'm struggling with this, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how to do this. And you'd be surprised how many times another creative will say, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing either. And it can be so comforting where you're like, wait, but I thought you've been doing this longer than I have. And they're like, no, I don't know either, but we can find out together. You're like, that's so comforting to find that out. Also those honest conversations help normalize, that imposter syndrome that we talk about, of course, the inner critic. Um, and the battle against perfectionism, because perfectionism is never going to get you the perfect painting. It's going to stop you from painting. It's paralyzing. So it's like, and it's almost like group therapy in a way when you get together with a bunch of artists and you're just like, I'm on the struggle bus and this is what's happening. And just be candid, you'll be surprised what comes out of that for sure.
Yeah, and I think by celebrating each other's wins along the way, not only does it like show you what's possible, but it does show you how different people define success along the journey, especially in that community over competition mindset. And you and your artistic peers really become mirrors for each other, where one person might get into a solo show or get into a group show that you didn't get into, but you just got accepted into an art market. And so you really realize how different people's journeys are. But to your point, Adriana, that everyone's just figuring it out. And oftentimes, when you go in with that mindset of sharing forward information and creating community, not competition, that people will also share their insight of their experiences with different shows, their insight with materials. That really helps both of you rise so much faster. And especially if you're able to create that community, whether it's with one art friend or a group that meets on a consistent basis. Another thing that I think is really helpful is having that constant as a way to track your own growth over time, which is our tip number 6. So, because it can be so easy to forget like how far we've come as artists and as people really in general. When you're so focused on, okay, what's the next milestone? What else can I do? Okay, I did this, now what's next? When really looking back through sketchbooks, photos, milestones, even old folders can be like really surprising and powerful and prove to you how much you've evolved along the way. And I think that's where the community aspect for me is specifically thinking about, okay, reminiscing about old shows that you and a friend did together, or do you remember how excited we were when this happened? When now in hindsight, that may feel like, oh yeah, something that happens all of the time now when, oh, remember that first time it happened? That was such a wild feeling. And you realize how normalized that's become because of the growth that you've had. So both milestone wise, but also creativity wise, keeping those archives, whether it's digital, whether it's sketchbooks, can really be invaluable to see almost like these time capsules and little windows into our past creative ideas, which is so much fun to look back at.
I know. I love that time capsule idea. I mean, even if it feels cringy, like that one TikTok that you did way back when or whatever, where you were trying to be like funny while also making art. It can still tell a story. Like it can still show, some of the steps that we took along the way to get to where we are now. And I mean, honestly, like revisiting all old work, I mean, be kind to yourself, please do. But I feel like if you're looking at it objectively and going, okay, there's some parts of it that, we've gotten better over the years, and some of it is a little cringy, but I like this, and that. When you're identifying and like being honest with yourself, with your old work, it can spark new ideas, or even revive old themes that you've forgotten, or maybe they were just like, I don't know, it's like backburnered for a while, or you might just be like, I don't know why I didn't see this at the time, but I really love this pattern, or I really love this texture, or I really love this color. How come I haven't used it since then? And it's been 3 years or whatever. I don't know. I feel like a lot of times, like, not only does it help you by tracking, your growth over time, one, reduce a little bit of the comparison, but two, yeah, it helps you like track how you've come along. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes like our timelines get kind of scrunched together of like, oh no, I've been doing this kind of art for all this. It's like, no, you've evolved. Like we've all done, a couple cringy posts like of paintings we would never, ever, ever try to show to anybody, but they were necessary, in the past to get to where we are now. That I would say, speaking of cringy, I would say the last hot tip about this, about building your confidence as an artist, is being intentional about reframing failure as part of the process. Like failures aren't the end. They're part of the territory. I mean, some of our biggest growth moments come after things don't go to plan, whether that's a painting, whether that's a project we applied to that we didn't get. I mean, confidence comes from getting back up, dusting yourself off and going, okay, all right, let's keep going. And not just from, the falling down part. Like if you stay down, you failed, right? Like that's when you gave up. But if you're like, okay, this sucks, but I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna apply to that show again. I am going to email another client in that same neighborhood for a mural, or I'm going to follow up on an email because I haven't heard back. And then they turn out and it took 5 emails for them to respond because it kept going to spam, but you didn't know that. You never know. But I feel like whether it's like rejected pitches, maybe it's an art show that like nobody bought anything, but maybe they did later, or you feel like a client is ghosting you. Like we've all been there. It's the kind of thing that like after the sting wears off, you almost always walk with a lesson. Whether it was them, whether it was you, whether it was circumstances completely out of both of your control, but like it just helps if you just kind of get stuck on like, well, this was terrible, then you won't have the chance to like evaluate.
Yes, and I think that's the biggest thing that is helpful with those moments of what may be perceived as failure early on, or like a big pivotal moment of like, why am I doing this? I should just throw the rag in and like do something else. Is those are the moments that often make us reflect on, okay, yes, this didn't work. What can I do better next time? How can I be more prepared? What research or proactive planning can I do in order to set myself up for success in the future? So whether that's, okay, you didn't get into a show, okay, do I need to refine my body of work? Do I need to just apply to more shows? If you had an art market, how could your display be improved? How could you market that you're at this event more? And it really, those are the moments that are not always easy, but those are the moments of growth that allow you to really treat the moment of failure as more feedback, and really move forward with more excitement in your journey of, okay, that was a lesson that stung a little bit. Now, what can I do to move forward from it? Because ultimately, when it comes to the creative journey, you don't build confidence all at once, right? It's always something that are these little pieces built layer by layer on top of each other. And it's those moments of consistent action, consistently showing up, and kind of weathering the storms of the tough moments where there are moments of growth opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know if y'all noticed as you were listening to this episode, but we'll never tell you to fake it till you make it, like fake that you're confident. It's like, no, just take some steps, like track your growth in some way, whether it's sketchbooks, photos, journaling. I mean, just keep an eye on how far you've gone, and have like your network with you to help support you along the way. And yeah, you'll see. You'll see. I mean, that's like nice, organic, natural confidence boost is like when you go, okay, like now I got accepted because my artwork is a little bit better because I kept showing up. Or my photos got better because I tried again, because I got feedback, because I listened, because I reevaluated and I tried again, like you didn't just quit because one show said no, one juror said no. You went at it again. So, anyways, don't have to fake it, but you got to make it. So, at least try. At least try. You'll see. You'll see. Believe us on this one. If not, send us a DM. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap today's conversation, and we hope you enjoyed this episode.
As always, our blog will be linked in today's show notes, where you will find episode notes and links to all of our other podcast episodes.
And if you want to stay connected with us in between episodes, share your feedback, or have a question you would like for us to answer on the podcast, you can reach us through social media. I'm at ameighart across all platforms.
And I'm at jsandersstudio across all platforms. And if you want to follow the podcast, we are at levelupartists on Instagram.
You can also visit levelupartists.com to get immediate access to template, resources, and more to level up your creative career.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you in the next episode.